I chose the prompt about the differences between Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian columns. So Doric columns are the shortest out of all of the columns, and they have multiple parts. So the first one is the entablature, and it's the topmost part. And they're divided into triglyphs, which are squares divided into 3 sections, and then between those are the metopes, which are blank spaces, but they oftentimes will have little like reliefs carved into them. I know the Parthenon does that. And they below the entablature is the capital. So this is where what we would think of as part of the column, and the Doric columns usually do like a little swerve in and out, and then they're topped off by a plain slab, so it's very simple. And then as you go down the column, or the shaft, I guess, there are vertical flutes, vertical lines running down it, and then there's also a really interesting thing that it does where it curves out. I always think of like a pot-bellied person. It starts out, it just gradually gets rounder and rounder, and then it goes back in around the bottom. And yeah, I think it does a lot to provide this very like stationary, sort of intimidating feel from the columns, even though they're the simplest. And the base of the column, there's not really anything to look at. They just kind of stop. And then next after that are the Ionic columns. So they're the second tallest out of all the columns, and they're very thin, and they always make me think of like ladies having tea. They seem very fancy. And at the top, I guess the most recognizable part of them is the little spirals in the capital, and these are called volutes. I think for me, Ionic columns are always what I think of when I think of ancient Greece. So it's quite the symbol. And then after that is the Corinthian columns, and those are also really thin, but the capital is much more decorated than Ionic or Doric columns. So they also have volutes, but they're much less pronounced. They're much smaller. I actually didn't even know that until I was researching for this, because they're often swallowed by these leaves that these carvings of leaves that swerve away from the column. I think the leaves are from the acanthus plant, if I'm saying that right. And these columns, the Corinthian columns, are also topped off by a marble slab. And yeah, and they're also fluted. They have a base. Oh, Ionic columns have a base as well. It's also much fancier than the Doric columns, and it will have like multiple levels to it. So do Corinthian columns. And Corinthian columns are the tallest out of all of them. And I think that they're my favorite.